Most of these kids didn't make it as pro boxers. So if you don't want to fail in your peekaboo boxing training, in this video we're going to introduce Ben Patrick to Kaz D'Amato. We are going to apply knees over toes principle to the boxing training for beginners, and we're going to marry the ATG group to the peekaboo boxing. Becoming a world-class boxing athlete. When you start the peekaboo boxing training after Kaz D'Amato, you'd work on V-bobs like he drilled his fighters in 1980s. What should you do differently in 2024 compared to 1980s? Even though the actual body mechanics is obscured in the video, we can get a hint of it observing Mike Tyson bobbing during mid-training. He wasn't flat-footed. He elevated the heel when squatting. Turns out, it is the smartest thing you can do by elevating the heel and achieve knees over toes effect. It makes a tremendous difference for your knee health. How to elevate the heel? Place a brick, a wooden plank, or work on an inclined surface from the start. You can purchase a slanted board or special shoes for squatting with high heels. Start doing a few rounds of this in your training per week, ass all the way down to the grass. Along with V-bobs, you'll drill sidebends as Kaz D'Amato drilled his fighters in 1980s. What should you do differently in 2024 compared to 1980s? Even though the actual technique seems obscured, as we established earlier, you have to shift your hips into the opposite direction of the desired slip. Drilling the side bends has a lot to do with the lower back health, so the worst thing you can do is to adhere to multiple YouTube examples that advocate fast moves, jerky technique, and the most dangerous one, significant bending at the back. Don't do that. Instead, take some suitable extra weight and begin slipping side to side, focusing on the explained technique, slow and smooth arcing motion, and deep, big amplitude dips. Start doing a few rounds of this per week in your training. The strength is gained through the range it is trained. So here is me doing side back extension, which is a variation done specifically to make it similar to side bends. I put feet on the line and I reach down to the floor with the weight and I lift it up in a technique very similar to side bends as I demonstrate right now. The hips go sway to one side and you bend your body to the other. I recommend a round or two of this per week in your training to avoid any kind of back pain. Apart from this very specific drill, I recommend regular back extension with elevated toes, so you reach all the way down with some weight. A dozen of reps at a time, slow and steady. Naturally, this drill can be combined with elephant walk to stretch your calves and hamstrings. Now I'm doing kind of like seated good mornings. I straighten my back and bring the chest all the way down to the knees, even though here I'm not really sitting, but it's a similar move. Doing all of this will prevent any lower back issues you might get by doing fast side bends while drilling with the sleep bag. Floyd Mayweather doesn't show signs of knee issues, being 46, 47 years old, and he is still fighting, still competing. So the reason is because I realized that the training method he does sit-ups, rise-ups are very similar to what knees over toes advocate for the knee health, at least the low tier progression exercise, and this is something very similar. Knees over toes, wall sit. Therefore, apart from V-bobs, which are very specific to squats in peekaboo, I also recommend doing ATG split squat with elevated heel. And the knee health has something to do with, for instance, calf raises. Either you do 2 feet calf raises or single leg calf raises. As far as punching technique is concerned, I recommend working on all sorts of pivots. Here I'm doing full body pivot, using some weight for extra resistance to force body do more torque. I drop the hip and I basically do move similar to double hook, like hook, side view of the same move. So you move weight to the hip, drop the opposite hip, then you twist left right, drop the weight, relax, and repeat the move again. Next move is to drill hip hunch and heel thud. So you attach the elbow with the weight to your waist, drop the opposite hip, you raise the punching hip, stomp the opposite heel to simulate the initial move for the some hooks, the shovel hooks, and the uppercuts. Finally, something to do with kind of like straight punches. You stand in the L stance with your feet. I elevate the heel, kind of like simulate knees over toes, and you sway the weight like trying to swing a baseball bat. But the mechanics of bringing the rear hip forward is similar to straight punches, so that's what is called partial body pivot. Finally, some exercises for shoulder stability. I toss the dumbbell, then I do bicep curls, shoulder presses, rotator cuff, the French arm extension, double arm extension, side arm extension for lats. Yeah, and Y raises, so to speak, for the shoulder stability. That's all for now. So we discussed a bunch of exercises that can prolong your training in peekaboo, not to give you back pain, knee problems, and shoulder problems. So if you do all this, as our example shows, you'll be fine.